Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the LCO.
Base race? It's a base race. They're marching. They're flashing. They're going to go for this one. I don't believe this. I do not believe this.
Only aim for perfection. Ain't no half stepping. I'm gonna take you back. Spitting facts, you gotta live with that. Who got it? Who won it? No problem. We mobbing in the city.
Champagne!
Do or die, it's either all or nothing. Best believe I'm leaving out with something. Anytime I got the crowd jumping, throwing rings, you know they fist.
Just evaporated. Gudo locking them all in place, linking up with Kiyose. That's an ace.
Ladies and gentlemen, yes, guess what? It's week 10, day 2, day 21 of games here on the LCO, delivered by Menulog. We're right down to the nitty gritty and we're almost up to playoffs, but we're on that final damn day. I'm excited, Kitty's excited, Rusty's excited. I didn't know if that was too hard of a hit. Are you okay?
I'm okay, because the games are going to hit harder.
Hey, thanks for saving me. I could have had a lawsuit on my hands. Otherwise, Skimmy, how you feeling?
Yeah, I'm good, bro. I'm good, bro. I'm loving this energy, Mac.
I brought a little bit too much. I'm toning it down already. Maybe. We'll see. It's still the pre-show. We got plenty of time remaining. But look, let's talk about yesterday's games. We could have had 4-way ties, 3-way ties going into today, but none of the teams that needed to win won. But the teams that wanted to win definitely got that dub. Gravitas, unfortunately, was not one of those teams. They got so close, though. We all thought it was happening. Kitty thought it was going to happen. She wrote on that whiteboard, but unfortunately, they just couldn't get that win. But after what we saw from Peace yesterday, maybe going into today, Gravitas could still have a shot.
Gravitas, I wouldn't say they have the best shot, because I think their best shot was yesterday up against Mammoth, where they were one team fight away from winning, which was quite a shame, because I think with, I believe, Chan subbing in again today, it can be an opportunity for Gravitas, but it depends on how top he plays, because that man's a menace right at the moment.
He really is. Now, boys, what was your highlight from yesterday? Was it Order just demolishing Kanga? Was it Chiefs getting a big fatty dub? What was it?
There was a lot of one-sided games yesterday to kick us off. I do think that the game you highlighted, right, Mammoth and Gravitas, was probably the most exciting game of yesterday. I personally think that the best thing was the inclusion of Pantheon back into the competitive roster. I think that, alongside the the potential of Blanc, makes the game much more exciting. So I think, yeah, really overall, I'm more chuffed with the patch than anything else.
Yeah, that was a good change of pace, seeing a whole bunch of fighting around those Drakes. But having a look at this leaderboard, of course, Chiefs still undefeated, looking to finish the perfect split today, 21-0. Certainly on the cards, but we'll see what Kanga say. Either way, Order sitting there in second. There's a chance that... I'm pretty sure they're second no matter what, right? Even if PGG...
The upper bracket, no matter what.
The upper bracket no matter
PGG
what.
can win today, Order could lose today, and they'll finish third, but all they would be losing is side select in playoffs.
There's no huge shuffles. I think it all depends on the first game. Speaking of, let's have a look at the schedule here. Today, 6 p.m, Pentanet, Direwolves. That one is going to be an absolute banger. PGG could, as we mentioned, maybe go up and tie themselves.
Direwolves could go up as well.
Direwolves could also move up slightly too. So there's a lot going on there. Second game of the day, of course, we got Peace. We got Gravitas. That one, after what we saw from Peace yesterday, means that Gravitas still definitely are in it with this final day to get that first win on the board. 8 p.m, Chiefs and Kanga. It's truly going to be that test for Kanga now. We saw them have a bit of a lackluster performance yesterday, riddled with technical difficulties, but look, you can't make excuses when you're on a big stage like this. But Chiefs, you know they're going to be bringing their A game, because they also want that perfect split. And then down there, final game of the day, final game of this regular season, Mammoth and Order to close the show. Skimmy, thoughts on that one?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm expecting Mammoth once again to try and showcase some new picks, maybe just run it back with Danila, for instance. But I'd imagine they want to end on a very high note and say that that game against Gravitas, far too close for comfort.
Yeah, it really was. Now, Kitty, out of those games that we're going to be getting on the menu today, which one's your pick of the bunch?
Definitely the first one, Dials vs PGG, because we saw PGG have a really good performance up against Peace last night, where I believe has actually popped off and did really well. Meanwhile, on Peace, they're having sorry, not Peace. Meanwhile, on Dials, I believe they are on a 3-game losing streak. Is that correct?
2, I think, at the
2-game
moment.
losing streak. Well, it's not looking too hot for the Wolf Boys, but surely they can turn it around with this.
They've got their
match.
head-to-head against Pentanet at the moment, right? 2-0, so maybe that's the even outer.
Yeah, they certainly are on their way to somewhere, and that could be DreamHack. Yeah, perfect timing. Look, lco.gg/DreamHack if you want to get those tickets, because that's where the lower bracket final is going to be on the Friday, which I think is the 2nd of September, and the 4th of September, which is the Sunday, is where the grand final's going to be. Oh, it's on the screen. Lucky, because
And
my
did you know,
brain
Mac?
works sometimes and then doesn't work other times.
If you go to DreamHack, you can also do this.
Do a
We
lot
can
of this.
do this together.
Well, if I sit there like this in a walkway and I offer my knee to all of the people, you can come and have a knee slap an old time, couldn't you? And it doesn't have to be your knee, it can be my knee.
I'm signing up now. Thank you.
And if you're not sold,
That's the exhibition I need.
if you're not sold on that, Rusty said he's got 2 knees as well,
he
which
didn't.
needs slapping.
No, he did not.
He always talks about his
Rusty
knees.
said
around.
LCO.gg/DreamHack. What's next?
They come to the LCO stage, we're all just like, come on then.
Live knee slaps at DreamHack. That's what I'm in for. Okay, so we're going to look back at sort of the journey, the path that a lot of these teams have taken to get to this point, the last 20 games. We've got a graphic to display where they've been, where they've gone, the highs and the lows. Pretty much pick a color. That's the team on the right. Follow it backwards to the start, and then you can see the path that they've taken. That's the easiest way for me to talk about it. Chiefs, let's start with them. Up the top the whole way. So, very good example. You can see Order started there, went down all the way to 5th at one point, then up to 2nd, down to 4th, up to 2nd, and then they're sitting pretty in 2nd for a good couple of weeks now. And I think that's pretty important as well, because the straighter the line, the more solid, the longer that team's been in that position, right? So they've kind of held their ground. You can see that's why it's more important for Chiefs, because they've been there the whole time. Order sort of found their way around that mid-split mark and then have been sitting there the whole rest of the time. Anything else you want to touch on here, Rusty?
I mean, the zigzags of a couple of teams in there stand out to me. So PGG and Peace are the 2 ones, namely, where the middle of the split is tumultuous, to say the least. And in contrast, Dials is drawing a rainbow over the top of them in terms of how their split went. But peaking at the end is what matters the most, Mac, and that's where PGG are.
It really is. And look, you can see Kanga, even though they have peaked at the end as well, it's slightly different, right? Because they peaked after they had a bit of a rough performance. So even though they're winning a lot, they've only jumped that one position. But that's the position that matters, right? Because if they sat in 6th, they wouldn't be making it the playoffs. But look what's happened.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I guess that is what happened.
What do you want from me, Kitty?
I thought Skimmy wanted to
lost.
talk about this.
I wasn't
I
so
also thought you were going to talk about this.
So-
Well, I was waiting patiently for my turn to be passed to, but
Skimmy, it's your turn.
I had
Come on.
Kitty looking at me. I thought you had a zinger lined
He
up with
started
like a
getting-
banger joke, thinking,
Let's
that
just
looks
trying to
like
give
me.
it to you.
That looks like me and my
Trying to give it
TFT
to
lobbies.
you,
I'm
man.
down here, but then I come back at the end, come strong. Yeah, I don't know what it is. The only thing I was going to mention that looked really, really cool for me is just how many teams were tied in 2nd at one point, right? And
Yeah.
also we saw times 4th and 5th as well. So, yeah, that middle of the park, tumultuous to say the least.
Yeah, and a good little representation of the paths all the teams took. Speaking of, it is the final day for 3 of these teams to be playing, because they're not making it to playoffs. That means we're not going to see them next week. So it's a good time to say goodbye, even though they do have 1 game left today. But we're just going to start the festivities early, because if we do it next week, then we don't get to talk to the players about it. So let's do Gravitas first, of course. Bottom of the table. They're locked in. There's no way they, with 1 win, could jump up any higher. So look, let's look back at all the fun times, all their highlights from this split so far. And there's been a fair few of these ones, especially up against Mammoth, because they've had 2 Scorchers, maybe even 3 Scorchers after yesterday's game with Mammoth. So little rumble in the jungle.
I mean, even as a full year in review for Gravitas, right? They've swapped their top lane out. They've swapped their support out as well. Lenia came in the 2nd split, and I think unfortunately for Gravitas, they never really found their angle. They never really found their way to win games with any level of consistency.
Yeah.
And the one thing that they were continuously working on was their mid to late game, but it was a struggle for them to get there at times, even with an advantage. And when they found it, they were still, as stated, working on that and struggling through that.
The only constant I would say, sorry there, Kitty, is that Dajong's been the only player that's played this entire year, right? Whereas every other part of the puzzle has moved around, right? Foreigner was once on this team back in Split 1. He's now playing on Kanga, so then Linear comes into the fold of things. They were changing around their bot duo constantly, right? It was in Trust, and it was Vixbird, and then it's Floppy, now it's Piglet coming in, right? So they've made a lot of changes, but Split 2 just doesn't work for them.
And I actually want to applaud that Gravitas. We did mention how Dajong has always been the carry of the team. However, I think as we progressed into Split 2, a lot of the other team players have been stepping up. Like, they have had their moments in their games. So, you know, congrats to... We did see this improvement as we came along, and hopefully we do see more from Gravitas overall for next year.
I feel like we got a really, solid increase in performance there from T-Shen as well as the split sort of went on. Maybe it's dipped in the last week or so, but he did have a couple of big individual performances in that sort of end of the second round, start of the third round, and, that needs to be mentioned as well. So doing really good work in that ADC role, which, as we've noticed, has been, relatively hard to carry from if you don't get off to a good start. But let's talk about Mammoth now as well, because they were really looking like an underdog for a little while there. Started to take it to some teams really early on, and when we got into that second round, of course, we had to start to talk about, are we going to see, head-to-heads come through? Are we going to see them really, knock Direwolves down, knock the likes of Peace and everyone else that they sort of took a game off here or there off? And just unfortunately never worked out. But they were team scale, right? That's pretty much what we need to put it down to.
Yeah, I mean, they at all costs would pick the core KK, or they'd scale into the game for as much as they possibly can. There's one thing that I would applaud Mammoth for, right, is that they found their style, they stuck to it. One could argue that they had non-optimal drafts as a result of it, but that's because they knew what they wanted and they bloody got it.
Yeah.
So they were happy with where they were, and I also think that Mammoth as an organization, or rather like the players and coaching staff, seems like it's a group of friends, which is something that is actually really positive for their team environment. It means they will be able to take the losses that they've had. Obviously, they've had a few, given they've been eliminated from playoff contention, but take it in their stride and still be able to smile and think about what's next, which is a really nice thing to have in an org.
Yeah, it's a solid
professionally.
Thing to touch on too, right? Because that's something I noticed throughout the split is you're expecting in the player cams when a team's losing or it's been close, then you start to lose, for that team to look a little bit tilted or something. But then they're just always smiling, always having a good time, even in the losses.
And talking about smiling, I do want to highlight the mid laners for Mammoth. I think Miku and Refury, with them stopping throughout Split 2, they have all had their moments where they carry and made some really nice montage plays, like in specific Sandra flank from last night up against Gravitas. So I think Mammoth has the potential to become a lot better, especially in that mid lane.
Okay, well, let's move on, because that was Mammoth. We've got one more team to say goodbye to as well, which I don't think many of us expected to have to do today. But unfortunately for Peace, they just went on that downward trend. They just couldn't find their style. They couldn't figure out which ADC they wanted to play with, and they just never felt like the Peace of even last split last year, did they?
It felt like we got glimpses of the piece from last year, or, the title contenders piece that we've seen in the past, but it would happen once every 3 weeks, and we never really got enough consistency to be super happy with it. It felt bad because, like, again, you've got Cheon. Gunkrab trying to adapt to the support role, felt like he was struggling with Violet, actually seemed decent with Cheon.
Yeah.
Just this weird combination of factors, and then Lisa and Appy, the two, I guess they were the shining lights in Split 1.
Yeah.
I never really stood up the way that they did in the first split. They kind of stayed at a level lower than what we expected of them. And that's also why, I guess, if you look back to all of our predictions at the start of the split, they were probably a top 3 or 4 team minimum, and here they are in 6th.
Yeah, I mean, even for my power rankings, I had them locked in at second, right? I believed in the hype of Violet coming back from NA. I believed in what they'd sort of done. They were our newest team to join the league back in 2021 when the LCO began. So this will be the first time, Mac, right, where they've not actually made it to playoffs. You've gone from going to the biggest highs or the biggest tournaments that the world has to offer to now been in a position like this, which, yeah, nobody could have predicted. Ultimately for them, I'm sure they're going to be really back to the drawing board and considering what their moves are for next year and sort of how they can avoid having a sort of an outcome like this. So, falling from second place in Split 1 to not even making it now seems like a big drop-off.
It's crazy as well, teeing up top, was just so strong when he sort of entered the LCO, and this split he carried a few times. He even said in the interviews, look, he felt like it was his fault they lost a few times, and he just never seemed to find his footing either. It's like the chemistry in the team just went downhill all split. It never sort of grew.
Yeah, you can definitely kind of see that because when they announced that Tien and Violet was going to be joining the team, I believe Violet also brought Gunkrab onto the team. He wanted Gunkrab to come back from Europe to Australia to play support for him, which I thought was going to be really well because they all know each other pretty well from those previous years. But it seems like maybe the original team, like such as Lisa and Api, couldn't find a way to work it thoroughly with those three, and it just kind of collapsed from that.
Yeah, so a little bit rough, but look, all three of those teams, you get to see them for the last time this year. Playing today, two of the teams actually are going up head-to-head. That's Peace and Gravitas, so should be an interesting affair, but something else that's very interesting to me, to Kitty, I won't hit you this time, to you guys at home, always, is the LC Conundrum.
Is today the day luck's with you? Is it now your life could read you? Then you must play the game, cause I have to proclaim life's a game of chance.
What are we doing?
I didn't expect that one from
What
Skimmy.
are we
You
I
just
didn't
gave me a
expect
whiteboard. I was like, oh, what are we
nothing
doing?
from Skimmy at all. He gave me mimed words. And I didn't know whether to continue from where I was or continue from where the mime was. So here we are, LCO Champion Conundrum today. We're going to be rolling it back to some hot seat action, so you guys can play along as well. It's going to be A, B, C, D up on the screen with multiple choice answers because that means Kitty can't just win them all. We have a 1 in 4 chance of winning as well. It's going to be law related, so not like law as in...
Law and order.
Yeah, it's like
Dun.
LORE. So, you know, story,
Criminal justice system.
theory, not theory, story.
Lore.
Backstories.
Lore.
Law, but like an
Lore.
American says it.
Yeah.
Lore.
Yeah.
Lore.
Is it like when you find an ore node and you mine it, and you
Okay.
like hold this L?
Not or, lore. Anyway, let's jump into question number 1. We'll give ourselves about 30 seconds for each of these. Which city did
I don't know.
Yana protect when parts of it collapsed
Yana.
below sea level?
Yana.
Was it A, Ionia? Was it B, Bilgewater? Was it C, Piltover?
Bilgewater.
Or was it D, Zaun? I know it's Zon. I was just testing
Oh,
it.
wait. Oh.
When it comes below. Oh,
Oh, I'm stuck between this.
that's so easy.
Oh, was I meant to write the letter? I wrote the word.
Yeah, letter, quick.
You're an
fix it.
overachiever.
You got 3, 2, 1. Let's reveal. B, D, A, C?
Yeah.
We all have a different one.
Oh.
Someone wins.
Someone's gotta
Let's
be
see
right.
who wins. Zon is
know
D.
what Zorn is.
Congrats.
What do you mean? Do you not watch Arcane? I hecking love Arcane.
love Arcane.
Okay,
Vi.
below sea
Hello.
Oh my god,
Yeah,
she's
I saw
from
Bilgewater, and I was like, there's water there.
I also know
So it
that
has to be that one.
Piltover below it is like another
Okay,
whole
do
city.
you guys wanna
I
hear the
figured
whole story
below
for
sea level
Jana?
is like technically.
I don't know if we have time for the whole story for
Okay.
Jana, but can you give me the TLDR?
TLDR, Jana was a god that sailors worshipped for good air.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
Solid. Now, let's jump
Okay.
into question
Rapid
number
fire
2.
Story.
Kitty's winning right now. Which champion was responsible for ripping out Rengar's eye when Rengar was sent on a hunt for them?
Oh.
Ooh, A, Aatrox, B, Kha'Zix, C, Renekton, or D, Volibear? I think
Russ,
this may
you
be
should know this one.
maybe the only one that I know.
I feel like, I mean, I'm going to assume it's correct until I'm told otherwise by the lore expert.
3, 2, 1, bam! We're all on the B train.
Yeah.
There's an in-game feature
Yeah, it's
for
because
this.
at level 16 they duel each other. There's
Yeah.
like a quest.
And you
the
get
winner
a
gets
special...
You are my rival.
Kha'Zix gets an evolve or something, he turns red.
Yeah, you get a special bonus thing.
Forget what Rengar gets because Rengar
Rengar
changes all the
gets-
time.
He probably gets an extra tooth on his
An
bloody
eye or something?
neck, maybe.
The head of Kha'Zix, I think.
Who's it?
Oh, he gets an extra evolve. No, that's
No, Kha'Zix evolves.
We just get an extra.
Isn't there another one where you get a
Oh,
crown?
Oh, he gets a passive, right?
Yeah, but like
collects
Rengar
things?
changes so much, I don't know anymore.
I don't know anymore.
I haven't played the
Yeah.
champion in a long time.
Anyway,
No one
Next.
plays Rengar.
hopefully we get
Next.
Rengar in the LCO today. Let's
Rengar's
look at the
cancelled.
third and final question we got here for the LCO champion conundrum. When Lissandra betrayed her sisters, what were the names of the creatures she summoned from the realm below? Was it A, Watchers? Was it B, Masters? Was it C, Dreads? Or was it D, Iceborne? You got 5 seconds. Time's ticking. I have no idea either. 3, 2, 1. Right, and reveal. Bam. A, C, A.
I've heard of this, but I don't know what
D.
they're called.
What do we got?
They're watchers.
What is the answer? Watchers.
Because
Dan.
Ash is one of them, right? Like
No.
Ash's arrow came from one of Lissandra's sisters, right?
Congrats, Kitty. You won
Yeah.
The
by
watchers
getting
are the
all
people below
3
the bridge, aren't they? They're
correct. All 3 correct.
Like, I
And
read that story.
that is that for the
one
LCO
story.
champion conundrum for the final day of the regular split. Thank you all for joining us. That's the show. Good night.
I don't know if this is correct, but I think the Watchers are also responsible for the void. Like they made a crack, an
Aren't
open
they all
crack
like
in
big
the world.
Vel'Kozes or
Kitty,
something?
the show's over. You can't keep talking.
I want to talk about lore. Can we just have a segment
but-
where I get to talk about
Aren't they
lore?
like big Vel'Kozes?
We can
Yeah.
do that another time. How about we talk about from the fans?
I was hoping
because
you'd hold that
if-
pose for longer, Mac. like a Madame Two Swords wax figure.
We've got to get places. We've got to get to the fun, to the actual League of Legends. But to get there, we've got to get through this. At LCO on the Twitter sphere, tell us who you think your particular Dare MVP would be for the split. If it's someone that's up there, if it's someone that's not up there, just one of your favorite players. Who bloody knows? We've got 2 to have a quick look at. Let's see what you've sent in already. Did you just throw your
I want to
whiteboard?
talk about it.
Anyway, Deadly G on the Twitter sphere. Thank you. Definitely Yuri. He's been Mr. Consistent for all of PGG's games. Throughout the split, he's also made some comebacks happen for them and nearly carried them to victory when behind against tough opponents. If it's not someone from Chiefs, it should be Yuri. Oh, yeah, I think that's a pretty solid argument. What about you guys?
I think that is the exact same and very fair logic as a lot of people that have hard carried their teams through the split. It comes down to a conversation on what is the MVP. So I think for PGG, Yuri is the MVP.
Very true. Well, we'll keep him in our minds. Thank you, Deadly Ghost. We've got one more to have a look at before we jump on into the fun, jump on into the games. And this one's a quick one. Looks like Sahil at Deboosted Animal on the Twitter sphere. Fighto!
The Yuri of Kanga.
For sure.
Literally.
I was going to say Fido. I was wondering if it had come up. So
I wanted to yell Faker, but I thought, we'll give Fido his moment in the
We should stop
spotlight.
calling him Faker.
We really should.
Yeah, because he's Fido.
He is better than Faker. Is that what you
No.
were getting at? Sorry, Fido. Look, you can give me that $5 on PayPal for saying that one. Anyway, look, let's jump on into House of Dragons activation. So you guys get a chance to 1v1 Kitty, to 1v1 Rusty. Both of them, of course, are going to be wearing dragon skins on whatever champs you 1v1 them on. And of course, to go into the running for that, you go lco.gg/HOTD or exclamation HOTD in the chat. Of course, this is to celebrate the Game of Thrones House of the Dragon, which is coming out very soon on Binge, at Binge on the Twitter sphere. It's going to be banger. It's pretty much like a prequel to Game of Thrones, its own little story. And I can't wait to watch that one. I also can't wait to whip you both in the 1v1s. I'm not allowed to play. I'm too bad. But
It makes 2 of us, mate.
I made Rusty do a face though, so look, I'm getting
I know how to
reactions out
beat
of him.
Skimmy. I just load Summoner's Rift.
That's how you beat me for
You
sure.
don't know it exists.
I will not lane, but I'll team fight.
But you do 1v1 like in the ARAM lane anyway, right? Howling Abyss?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, beautiful. I know names. I know things. I'll tell you what I do know. Teams. Let's talk about game number 1 of the bloody day. It's going to be a banger. Let's talk about Dire Wolves first. Today they're up against PGG. And look, they looked okay yesterday. Unfortunately, they couldn't get the dub, but maybe they can today, Skimmy.
Yeah, hopefully they can. Seaman will be definitely a game of redemption before they do go into playoffs. I love the point that Rusty brought up yesterday about the Vex being brought into the mix of things, because it does feel like a champion on brand with him. Just unfortunately didn't hit the mark right. I don't think any of the ultimates ever landed, and that's a huge component of the champion as a whole, right? So. Huge performance for him is what we kind of expect. Obviously, the first time they went up against each other, he hard carried on the Silas, right? The 10-0 performance. The second time, then Poltron got the cheeky Shaco, and they snuck away a win at the very end there. So, expecting to see some more wild picks. Given the stakes of this having big implications, I'd imagine there's going to be more wild picks. I'm looking at Xeranis I'm looking at Poltron.
Yeah, man's absolutely insane. Now let's talk about PGG quickly before we jump on into what's going on between these two today. But PGG yesterday looked like a spectacular team, didn't they, Rusty?
Yeah, they did. They played the Nidalee Renekton combo between jungle and top lane. Yuri with his roaming mid laner just felt right, and Praedyth has definitely come into form a little bit in the past week and a half, if not 2 weeks. Started to step up, and Mark has always been a bit of a playoffs gamer, so no surprises that he starts finding his form when playoffs are just on the horizon.
You just had to make sure they got locked in, right? They were a little bit worried about that a few weeks ago, but they still managed to find their feet, managed to fix that communication, and you could see, especially going into yesterday's game, that worked well. Now, the thing is, Direwolves already have this 2-0 head-to-head over PGG, so maybe there's a decent chance for them today if they come in with a good game plan, if they come in looking solid. But PGG, of course, they want some revenge before going into playoffs because there is a very, real world where Direwolves and PGG will face in the playoffs.
It's important to set the stakes here real quickly, Mac, is that if Direwolves do win this game because of the head-to-head, they should be above Pentanet.gg in the standings, which actually puts them in 3rd place in the standings, which is upper bracket for playoffs. So this is actually a very important game. Because if you get to the upper bracket, you get yourself a second chance. And that gets you one step closer to DreamHack, if not the finals, if not Worlds.
So arguably, both of these teams today are just going to be pulling out all
There
stops.
is a lot to play for in this game.
Showing what they can do, I guess, still in this best of 1 territory before we jump on into the ever-juicy best of 5s. That's going to be so much fun. Kitty, what's your thoughts on this one? Who are we watching? Who's going to be your main focus for both the teams?
My main focus? Well, it's something that I was scared coming into this patch was that Renekton pick, because Renekton can be a flex from top to mid lane. And for PGG in particular, they love first picking that Talia because we do know that Balkan and Yuri are both very fond of this pick. So I think drafting, when it comes to this time around, is going to be extremely hard against PGG.
Okay, so what will we expect going into this new patch from Direwolves?
You know what I'd love, and it's what I was talking to Rusty about yesterday when we were getting excited for this patch. I would love to see Pentanet leave up Silas, so then Suman is mind controlled the first picket, then Yuri responds with Renekton, and he just counters him.
Okay. Well, what I want to talk about, of course, is this jungle head-to-head, because I feel like it's the most important, area to watch today. Poltron has had some incredible impact recently, but then Balkan as well. You just can never fault him. No matter what he's playing, he picked up the Nidalee yesterday. We didn't even know if he could play a mean Nidalee, but he certainly could.
I mean, if we want to talk about Renekton as a springboard into junglers, that means that Balkan can play AP champions, and then he is his best. That is absolutely Balkan's territory. That with the Lee Sin, with the Jarvan, with aggressive early game play style, I do think that as far as patches in the lead up to playoffs are concerned, Pentanet.gg cannot ask for anything more. They've been given everything they could possibly want in terms of meta, a scaling bot lane meta, an aggressive mid-jungle duo, objectives to constantly fight for. This is their patch, and Direwolves are the ones that are going to have to try and respond to this, where Poltron, who was playing the Poppy's, not going to have Hex Flash this week, can pick the Pantheon and kind of have a very similar style and have a high early impact. But I would really like to see the LeBlanc Pantheon or something of the likes, the Xin Zhao LeBlanc coming out of Poltron and Suman if they want to be able to go toe-to-toe with Balkan.
Okay, and I feel like Direwolves, they're one of these teams as well that are, pretty good at picking some easier to execute comps and have been playing like that most of the split. Now, we've got someone on the line. I wouldn't say he's your friend after the last interview, but Kitty, do you know who we have?
So my friend, it's my nemesis in the bot lane because I am the superior ADC out of the two. So, facts aside, how you doing, Praedyth?
Oh, great.
That's great to hear. Well, let's talk about your matchup against Direwolves. Did you just wake up? I swear you're more energetic in those games we play in League of Legends.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
definitely more energetic when we're versing you for sure in Flex Queue.
Well, that's great to hear, and good to know that you're staying hydrated because you need to stay hydrated for this game up against Direwolves. So, sorry, I'm losing track. Oh my god.
Sorry, that's my fault.
That's okay. So I want to talk about your draft because we think the current meta for PG is actually really suited towards you guys, where we have the scaling bot lane, and we did see the Renekton and Nidalee coming out of you guys as well up against Peace last night. So do you think this meta favors you? And I want to know what you think of it personally.
I think bot lane's really versatile. I think you can pick scaling and pick early game champs. But I think definitely the top side, you'll see probably a different top side coming from our team. Because yeah, as you said, like it's a lot more aggressive picks and whatnot. So I think hopefully a lot faster games coming from us, either if we win or lose. And yeah, we'll see. I think it suits us really well.
Okay, so focusing on some more aggressive early picks in the draft today, do you think, particularly with Direwolves, I know you haven't really been too worried previously going into these games, but they beat you last 2 times. So is today more about revenge, or is it just sort of sending a message before you jump on into playoffs?
I think the games we lost against Direwolves, I think like that Direwolves could have been any team and they would have won. They could have even been probably not Gravitas, but maybe Mammoth, or one of the worst teams. I think if we played like that against any of those teams, like we would have lost those games as well. I don't think Direwolves really did anything that great to win those games. So I don't know. I don't really care. I think I think we'll win now, and I think we'll win. Yeah, we'll be seeing in the playoffs.
Hopefully we do get to see you guys perform in playoffs as well. And let's shake off those morning nerves, and best of luck in your match up against Direwolves, man.
Thank you.
It's 6 p.m.
Or sleep
I love how
talking
you
to
said
him.
morning nerves, and yeah, it's 6 p.m.
Dude,
times.
definitely croaky. I can imagine if we interviewed Rogue, you'd see him walking past with like a mug of coffee this large to wake up for the game. So.
Did you hear the cup just going?
yeah, that's like it broke down laughing.
That
I'm sorry
ruined
about
me.
that.
That ruined me.
It was so funny.
And then I looked at you guys, and you guys were giggling. I was giggling.
I lost my point.
Kitty couldn't think. I'm so sorry. Look,
It's okay.
I'll make it up to you. If you go into Twitch chat, you can put your Twitch points in the Dare fan vote and tell us how you think this game's going to go. You guys can too. It's up there. Press that button. Go down there. Use custom amount. Put them all on, because it's the last day of regulation. And why not celebrate by putting all your Twitch points away, giving them to someone else, maybe a little donation going into playoffs, and you can start fresh. It's pretty much a test of how much LCO do you watch, and you just build your points back up again from the start. It's like playing Twitch on hardcore mode, right? You die, you lose all your points, you start again. It's
Sure.
great.
True.
You all in?
That's great. Prediction time. Let's see what we think is going to be going on today. Ooh, Skimmy. He might be able to jump up there to Kitty with
Skizza.
this pick.
Yeah, look, I believe in the Bulldog hype train. He said that they reckon at start of season we're going to make third. If they win today, they would be third. So I'm a believer of that statement. And look, I love the Kiwis.
Yeah, true. I feel like it's pretty solid. Look, they did win the last 2 times, but as Prater said in the interview, he believed they played pretty garbage the last 2 times.
Which is fair in the second game, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
But,
and then going into
yeah.
the last couple of games we've seen from PGG, they're just looking like they're in a different form right now.
Yeah, they're looking close to unbeatable. It is interesting coming into playoffs as well, because it feels like PGG in their current form, Order and Chiefs are starting to be the hot favorites for making the finals. And we're starting to see the rise of teams that are potentially able to contest the Chiefs more and more. And if PGG play their best today, then Direwolves should be light work.
Okay. Now, Kitty, why have you gone for PGG instead of Direwolves?
Well, a few weeks ago, I'm not sure if you guys remember, I was on a, I believe, 8-game streak. I was 8 the fellow predictors, and I'm only 1 game away because I keep giga trolling. I keep trolling, so I'm not gonna troll it anymore, and
You had
I'm
some
going
fun
to
yesterday.
go with a PGG today.
Okay. Now, any memorable moments from both of these teams from the split, or even the last couple of times these guys played? Was it more so just yesterday and the fact that PGG are really starting to pop off? And Direwolves, I'm thinking back to Poltron having those extra resets the other day on the Viego. Is Viego even in the meta now? Do we still think he's got a place, or is there just too many other options?
I've seen it picked.
Yeah.
I can't say I've seen it do too well lately, but I have seen it picked. It does exist. It is still a viable option for sure. I just don't think it compares to a lot of the other junglers right now, because at the moment it is early aggression. It's playing for sides, and if you pick the Viego, the sides are playing more for you.
Okay. Now, I guess we'll just keep touching on the jungle stuff. LPL, are they on the 12-14 patch?
I
or
think
are
so,
they...
yeah.
Okay.
They should be, or at least the stats pages are saying they are.
They were still putting heavy prio on Poppy. Even though,
Yeah.
I guess Poppy versus Panth, what's that like in the jungle?
One of our players mentioned it yesterday, I forget who, about we should be expecting to see it as a counter matchup, but I guess with Hexflash still disabled, it's like a huge thing. Just, we saw it in the
True.
Alistair Leona situation yesterday, how many more engages you could have potentially found. So
Yeah.
maybe teams have just said, you know what, forget about it for the meantime. Let's just play any champion like a Trundle, Zen.
That's a great
any
idea.
engaged champion
Let's
level 3.
just play because Champ Select is ready. Let's jump on into the first game of the day.
Sure.
What? What'd you say?
I B-sword. I'm just mentally resetting after that one.
Sick. Let's get into the draft, shall we? Direwolves. My co-caster is blue screened IRL. Talia, Azir, Yumi are going to be the bands for Direwolves and an Ari first pick. So I think what you said earlier, Skimmy, about the potential of like leaving Sylas open, picking Renekton as a flexible champion in mid lane, I think that is still true. I'm not going to say 100% with certainty here that the Renekton is flexible to mid at all times. We've seen it work yesterday in top lane, but I would not be surprised, and you should not be surprised at home if Yuri plays the Renekton and they're able to flex that for a winning top lane matchup, and they're on red side, right? So that utility is there. If they choose to pick a bottom lane champion here like a Leona or whatever it may be, now they see the Lucian Nami, then I think that rings true on that they might be looking for a 5th pick top lane or mid lane counter.
Let's see what they do decide to then go for. With the Nautilus locked in now, you've got the Lucian Nami coming back into play. Almost like we've gone full swing once again from how the split first began into now where we're at, where literally anything is viable. Do you want to go for the early aggression like a Lucian Nami? Do you want to go for the punish with a Draven? Do you just want to AFK hyperscale with a champion like a Jinx and a Philios? Well, that is still up and available. This time, PGG have learnt their lesson. They've removed away the Shaco, the champion, which can certainly cause a few issues. I wouldn't be surprised if Poltron still has a few more tucked away to try and get them across that line. 2-0 so far against them, right? 3-0 would be huge, and it really is that one-game buffer.
And I'm wondering what the bans 4 and 5 here will be for Direwolves, because you could look at like the Sivir pick that worked really nicely for Praedyth yesterday, but Lucian Nami is such a hyper-aggressive lane. I wonder if they're even worried about a Sivir in general, you know? They might feel like they are strong enough. They're going to get rid of the Kai'Sa, which is a Nautilus combo. And another part of the aggressive jungle repertoire has been taken away here. Poppy's still well and truly up and available. Wukong not, however. So I will say that Poltron, you know, losing that volley bears definitely hurt him a little bit in terms of his competitive drafting. And always in the pocket has the Kindred, so just keep that in mind. I'd say it's not super likely this game, but it's always a possibility.
Still a Skarner there as well, and I wouldn't be too surprised, right? You've got a lot of burst from the Lucian Nami, you've got an Iron for the pick potential. Potentially, if you do want to get to level 6 as quickly as possible, remove somebody like a Sivir. Yes, you can obviously spell shield it, but potentially a flash engage would force the QSS tax out.
I mean, you could with this draft go for like a Viego and a Gwen. Maybe the Gwen's not best because you've already got an Ahri. But you have to assume it is a Renekton Nidalee top lane and pick something that is good to deal with it. The answer to that is not a lot. You could just go a tank, but going a tank doesn't actually guarantee you safe passage through that lane. It denies things like the Gnar, however, right? Where you've got the mini Gnar windows, you can just be so actively dove. Mordekaiser, if you want to be cheesy, right? To hit level 6 and stop them from being able to kill you.
Sure,
Because you can press Alt. So again, I think the Viego is the likely candidate here, especially with all these early skirmishes around Heralds. If you're able to get those resets, you can be team fight winning. As much as you would love a Kayle, you know, as much as you would love to be Mammoth compositionally and just have a Kayle to make your comp nice, I'm just going to float Mordekaiser as an idea and we'll expect a tank.
Yeah, it would seem like the safe of the two, right? If you want to try and break up any of those combos. Sejuani, not going to be blind picked anymore, but it is coming out as opposed to her first pick, as a last pick to round out here for the side of Direwolves. Obviously still waiting to see exactly what their matchup would look like if Pentanet did want to, in fact, flex that Renekton. Nope, they're going to go for the Zoe. That just gives you so much engage opportunity now.
You don't need to really flex the Renekton at all when you see matchups that are advantageous for you, right? So the Zoe is an interesting pick because it doesn't necessarily auto win mid by any means, but it can, right? It's got a huge upside here. Bubble guarantees the spear, guarantees the free follow-up, the free setup from your teammates as well. And it has really high push early. So you might lose out a little bit super early, but your goal is to push the minion waves in, keep control, keep priority in mid, and then you get to play the sides. This is, I feel like, from memory, this is called 2021 Pentanet.gg in a draft. That's what I would call this composition. They picked Zoe, they perma-pushed mid at level 3, they would float to a side lane and they would dive that lane. That's what this composition screams to me. As long as Yuri's keeping mid priority, they have both sides to play towards.
Well, I feel like you raise a good point, right? I mean, you could have Pabu in the jungle playing in Nidalee, right? Biopanther up top on the Renekton, for instance. Chaz in mid lane playing
and
as Zoe.
Praetor's playing Sivir. What are the chances?
Absolutely. So it really does feel like a throwback to old. And, you know, this is its newest variation, iteration, if you will, hoping to bring them across that finishing line. And I think it is a really interesting point, right, if we talk about form check, because I came into this one really umming and ahhing as to who would take the victory in this game. It felt like a bit of a 50-50, but then I guess recency bias would almost, I would say like maybe 60-40, perhaps even 70-30 in favor of Pentanet. What would you...
Yeah, I think I'd be aligned closer to the 70-30. I just think that Direwolves are so inconsistent. You know, like sometimes we'll get a 10-0 Suman, you're like, well, they can never lose when Suman's this good. But yesterday's game from him, I lost a lot of confidence.
Sure.
Lost a lot of faith in his ability. Yet, that is the inconsistency of Suman, right? We say he's discovered. We say the teams can handle him. We've seen it proven. And then the next day, he still just goes above and beyond and has that X factor that no one's prepared to deal with. So I do think it is 70-30 in the favor of Pentanet. If I was to give you a percentage, but Direwolves with that 30 can be very dangerous.
Well, let's see what I can do and how dangerous they can be. As mentioned already, leading into this one, it's come down to the final day for us to try and finally figure out the seeding going into playoffs. The teams themselves already secured, but that third and final spot in the upper bracket is all up for grabs. And it takes place right here and right now. Chippies, mate, how do we feel about that pressure and sort of how have you prepared for tonight with that in mind?
Up G. Yeah, I'd say the pressure's not too big because upper bracket's nice, but it's not needed. As you saw Order last split, you can always make a good run, but I feel like because we're so close to the end of the season, we want to have a statement game and show how strong we are coming into playoffs.
And looks like a statement game in terms of what you've put together, right? Obviously, the Nidalee and Renekton looked phenomenal yesterday, really putting in its work as to what it wants to try and achieve. And now we've got a Zoe in the mid lane as well. Would you say it's almost fair that this patch is, in a way, catered towards what makes you so strong as a team?
Yeah, I'd say a lot of the champions they got nerfed made Renekton even better. And, you know, with Renekton comes Nidalee, Talia, those sorts of junglers. And because Winter is so good at laning, it's just a combo that works really well for our team.
That's fantastic. All right, mate. Well, we're going to leave you to it. We're going to crack on with this game, and I wish you boys the best of luck.
Thanks, mate. See ya.
All right, really bold early moves here from Direwolves, namely. PGG with cheesing Suman. They threw a spear at him at level 1 and actually stopped his base. And then at 1 minute and 7 seconds in, Suman realizes that he's got to hold the L and just be an extra 100 HP down in his lane from a spear that connects. Zoranus walks down for a red buff to see if PGG want a late invade. And if they did, he was going to be there. But that means he is incredibly late for top. I'm not sure if he misses experience, but it is evidenced through the farm right now on the scoreboard that he has missed farm. And that is not the way that you want to start against the Nidalee Renekton. You want to be able to play the waves out of your own accord. But already he is absolutely doomed in a wave that ideally Winterer would slowly stack. Yuri, as we spoke about, should be able to guarantee priority in mid. And there is that constant risk of just level 3, dip to a side, and goodbye Zoranus' entire career in one gank.
Absolutely. And you definitely want to take advantage of everything you can get your hands on at an early point in this game. So I like the highlight there. Obviously, you saw from the fan vote as well, 60-40 in favor of Pentanet. So they feel this one is fairly close as well. So Slice and Dice goes off and Conqueror stacked, and that's going to be a winning trade as they start to get lower and lower. Now, I'm wondering if we will get a chance to talk about this, but Dante has actually locked in the first strike Lucian, which I've had a bit of a conversation with a few AD carry players. I spoke to Violet, spoke to Lemus. They said it's great, but they prefer it up against Enchanters, whereas PTA, press the attack, far more reliable into the tanks. We'll see how that one works in this game and if he can find any value into a Nautilus, says Poltron. With double buff now is charging up another stun. Is going to get sidestepped by Winterer as they drop vision going into that tri-brush. The Ignite goes out, and that is the Sejuani passive, getting the stun and getting the kill. A flash forward as Poltron finds the Renekton form, and they find another stun. They're flaming their way. No. This is going to die. He has no damage. Here. It's a Sejuani. And all the great work has been completely undone.
The play was so good for Direwolves, and then it was terrible in just the shortest of moments. The mid lane priority means that the trades came through, but Zoranus thought he had the kill. He thought the dive was possible. But the reality is Belkan still had the heal there, and that was completely undone. Really nicely done by Pentanet.GD to make sure their mid laner gets it, and make sure they still get the kills. But at the end of the day, that was still favorable for Direwolves until it wasn't. And it starts with finding Rintour, right? He was actually looking for Poltron. He found him. The big thing here with the minion waves, right, is that he was crashing the wave. He was going to set up either for a Balkan counter gank or for the waves to build back towards him, but they go for the play. They have the ignite advantage. They've got a Sejuani-Viego combo, which is devastating. They'll flash forwards here to try and secure this kill. And Zoranus goes in when Poltron's disengaging. They're not on the same page. Okay.
It's just a montage for Poltron at this point, isn't it? Mac asked the question, is Viego still viable? Well, he's got 2 kills.
The wave's about to crash. Poltron's just holding the minions to make sure that it does. He's about to lose the Nautilus, but can still dive.
Dante's got the buff, spell shields that, but they can just disengage away. Bulldog cops the 2 turret shots, he holds the aggro, and they just get out scot-free.
Yeah, and Poltron doing something that a lot of junglers in OSA are starting to do now, and that is die and just make the salty run back to the other side of the map and immediately gank it. Because everyone gets aggressive when you're showing elsewhere on the map. They usually expect you to go camps into a gank. Defies expectations of everybody if you just go straight for that gank. Very nicely done by them. Direwolves effectively with an equalizer. But keep in mind that equalizer doesn't help top at all. He's half the CS of the Renekton. He's going to fall behind in experience, and it does have that Nidalee sitting in the pocket ready to gank the Renekton lane at all times.
Absolutely.
It doesn't get easier for Zoranus.
Certainly will be keeping tabs as to where Balkan is pathing towards and what that lane state looks like, especially in the top side. We saw Winter do it time and time again yesterday in the game, where he was just stacking up massive crashes they would push, and they would guarantee that a lot would be lost. Let's see if Zoranus can weather that storm as they get closer and closer to the ultimate point. As Rogue is going to pop his head into mid lane, and it looks like...
He's coming in just for a cannon.
he just wanted that.
That's a refined support player right there. DMAT the cannon could run straight back bottom if he wants to. That bot wave real quickly seems like it's been held in a really nice position by Direwolves until now, so they have the privilege of choosing when they want it to push. And it means that a cannon will probably get missed here, as you saw. Praedyth, a very sad man. Look at the CS difference between ADs. It is devastating, and that felt like it was done mostly in a 2v2.
Sure.
The kill was just confirmed by Poltron. So strength on 2 fronts. Here we go again.
Big differences right now, and that's the play right there. Level 6 for the 2 ganking parties of Pensnet. As the spear goes out, the pounce, the leap, the damage, and the kill secure. And right now in this game state, Rusty, you have either end of the map. Big power points for either team.
Exactly right. And both are meant to be providing utility for the rest of their team for what it's worth, right? So the Sejuani should just be that stun bot that throws out the ultimate, tries to soak up some damage for the carries of the team in the Lucian, the Ahri to get it done, for the Viego to get those resets. Praedyth obviously wants farm, wants to scale, but does still have the utility of pressing the ultimate to allow his team to engage. And we've seen what's possible with a proto-belt Nidalee having a Sivir press the ultimate as Yuri on the hunt.
He's on the hunt. He had the Shrelias utilised there. He's going to land a bubble onto Simon, but actually direct his poke and damage onto Poltron rather. And let's try and get a cheeky kill. As everybody just pops their head into the bot lane for a moment.
I guess the crazy thing here now, if you look at the current levels as well as farm on the scoreboard, is the winner of Yuri in mid lane above all else. Right? The fact that he was able to just 1, have priority, 2, turn that into a move towards top, get a kill, and come back mid to continue clearing the waves, didn't miss a beat. And is feeling very, very good about the state of the game, where there's clearly strengths and weaknesses elsewhere. Mid is a bastion of just permanent strength for PGG. Has been for a couple of weeks, to be honest.
Certainly has been, but as you mentioned, it is a half-level advantage for Yuri and for Winter over their laning counterparts. Whether those breakpoints will net them any major reward, we saw it work wonderfully with Balkan there to support them and abuse the fact that they would have that strength. So let's see if any more of those opportunities will present themselves going forward into this one, as Yuri now has the Randuins.
Which also means he has the Spell Thieves. If he activates it, gets extra movement speed and can disengage if they were to run at him. Rogue was also sitting idly by, walking the longest, safest way possible to ensure that they were protected in mid. But now Direwolves are going to try and use their entire bottom lane skimmy to force this Herald. Praedyth is here in just a couple of seconds. Bubble connects. Is cleansed.
Yeah, Dante has
We're
it.
getting a
Cleanse
5v5
nice and
here.
early. And then we go, looking for...
Look at Winter.
Glacial Prison. Winter is on the side. Dominus goes active. He's going to try and do it on his own, but slicing and dicing, using the Herald as a passageway out. That's a lot of damage already coming in for these Trouble Bubbles as they go look to try and contest this one on that Herald. It's been stolen away by Pensnet. It's in Balkan's possession. The team fight. Dante, Direwolves, completely split apart. Yuri flashing across the wall, stealing summoners and trying to steal your HP bar. Poltron gets it alive, but it's not going to be the same success story here for Dante. The only casualty so far.
It's still completely routed. Direwolves pushed away. Look at this outer turret as well in top lane. Zoran is trying to keep the minions out, but spears are going to deter the base. They are looking at a dive here.
Everybody here, the rest of the Direwolves that got a chance
Herald
to run
to be
away,
summoned. It's
they
gonna
ran
tank.
away. TP's coming in, but will they be TPing into their demise? Pentanet are just doing a drive-by. They're popping ahead into lane and saying the Herald is all we want. Maybe the kill is no longer on the menu.
It seems to have been pushed away by the teleport from Suma, but when all is said and done, a very prolonged trade with a lot of different plays and things happening one after the other. Sequentially, PGG still find further leads and haven't really dropped anything in this trade at all. I mean, first and foremost, they secure the Herald. They get the Smite fight. The flash was used by Balkan to make sure he's not engaged on Winterer with a very wide flank. The ultimate being forced by Stuman from a hook thrown out by Rogue, and then this bubble just separates Dante and Bulldog from the herd. So this is where they lose, right? They're just completely split 3-2. ADC and support who are strong for Direwolves don't get to play because of bubbles on the ground, and Yuri's just going to steal flashes left, right, and center. So they're never going to be able to lock him down. Meanwhile, Sivir throwing boomerangs, Nidalee throwing spears, just Hail Marys left, right, and center. And eventually they connect.
And that little rough there for Dante, hitting the blast cone first of all, trying to dissuade the fact that Pentanet could chase after. Recalling in the bush, decides to reveal himself and says, maybe I'll just die if no one else will. Regardless, though, he is still individually in a very commanding position up against Predator. Had level 6 in that fight, whereas on the hunt was not available. And a big reason why he's up by 30 CS.
Yes, Dante is very large. And again, Praetor, the utility that he provides compared to something like a Sejuani is not going to be as prevalent, but look at PGG. They've found themselves a little fish snack.
Instant tidal wave completely gets sights up to pond. First strike goes at the bubble, tried to be preemptive with the portal.
Bubble
Triple
connected.
bubble has landed, so Dante is asleep and straight into a hook! And that is fantastic here for the bot lane. Predator will get a chance now to farm for free.
I feel like Dante just quite simply walked over the bubble on the ground. Just quite simply decided he'd had enough, wants a fast recall. Drake going to be locked down now by PGG, and keep in mind that this is a Sivir composition now getting a bit of extra out-of-combat movement speed. You like to see it, especially with the size of the buff. I think it's like 9% now or something from a single Cloud Drake. It's a lot, and that really adds up quick.
Certainly does add up quick, and it's going to help a very mobile jungler like the Nidalee also on their ability to farm up an absolute storm, keep pace, and actually far accelerate yourself over other members, hence why has the most gold in the game right now. Obviously 4-on-1 scoreline will help, but the ability just to run rampant, lay down traps, track down vision, keep tabs as to where this Viego could be.
Speaking of the Nidalee here, Zoran is being at risk of a dive. Ultimate going to be used by Winterer. They're committing.
They are certainly committing. Glacial Prison locks down Winterer, who's taken out one too many turret shots. It's been fully ramped up now. I'm going to switch this target onto Balkan. Back to Winterer where they go, potentially, as he looks to try and get in that final attack. Q, auto spear misses. It's getting a little bit risky right now, but Zoranus has nowhere to run. Now outside of that turret range. He's got no mana. He's got no health. He may not have any more options, but he's going to take his time. He is going to take them on a magical journey without Bard even being here. Another spear missed. And, well, we are now just zooming in.
He's got some fancy feet, doesn't he? No spears are going to connect today, but it was inevitable. It buys a whole lot of time for the rest of his team, though. And the reality is the second you leave your turret there, Zoranus, you know you're dead to rights. You know there's nothing that you're going to do anymore but run for your life. And boy, he could run. He's got some side steps, a couple of goose steps in there, but still dead.
Still is dead. As Suma now going to be taking the reins in the bot lane, answering that Predator 1v1, as the Lucian army have now been planted in the mid, and a bit of a chance now for these teams to find themselves some kills, find some rotational strength, and ultimately try and claim that very first turret. You can see a lot of good work done by Pentanet towards the top side. A lot of these plates already removed in the bottom half as well. Big race with only, what, 40 seconds left?
Yeah, essentially Herald gap, though, right, for this turret. So that's the reality here for Direwolves, is they're going to make the cross-map play. You can't fault them for pushing bottom while PGG have committed and overcommitted and stuck around and made sure that top was going to die at all costs. They will trade turrets back. They'll do so without their ADC. However, Dante is reset. He's gone mid. Yeah, we take a second to zoom in on the most depressed man in esports right now. And Praetor's just sitting in a bush. Nothing to do. He'll let this wave crash. This is also one of those really, like, when you're an ADC in this situation, normally when your tower's gone, you want to like flip the map. Maybe you want to go mid because it's more safe, right? Now you've got a Viego and an Ahri that can assassinate you from more angles. It's devastating. It's difficult to play. But what good is putting a Sivir with a couple of just random items mid? What does she provide? even if you're safer. Maybe the Zoe should stay because it's a 250 gold shutdown and no teleport. That's where it gets awkward here for PGG.
Yeah, it's a really good point, right? As to what do you protect more? Do you say, well, we should protect our current asset, which is strong in the moment, a flawless KDA for the Zoe, or do we plan and invest truly into this late game Sivir? And once 2 items are online, we feel like this Lucian is no longer as big of a concern.
So I think what you do is, if you're going to put Zoe in a side lane, you are already playing for that side lane. You kind of play from, like, if it's top because Herald's the next objective up, you play from top to mid. And instead of playing from, like, mid to top where you would have a strong Sivir. So first and foremost, you would like to see Belkan and Rogue help Yuri have a safe, strong place to be, and then use that to try and play the map.
Ooh, Poltron there. Ah, look at that. Fantastic Spidey senses by Yuri. They said, well, we can't see anybody. Poltron, you can drop the mist and pretend that you're doing the Herald, but we won't fall victim to it.
Sleep are going to be used here as well. They're just going to push them out of the area. Yuri always been a threat. Hunting for those bubbles makes the composition of PGG so easy to execute because the Nautilus hook is guaranteed, the spear is guaranteed. They can both wait for the sleep to be confirmed. Dante, the only one who can cleanse out of it. I would like a Mikhail's from Bulldog second, probably.
We'll see if we can get it, because that is a bit of CC coming out right now from the Ahri. The charm goes out, the hook misses, the bubble only knocks
Yuri.
up the Renekton. Yuri on the flank, instant flash away, depth charge gets claimed, but Dante is still going to get knocked up. He's out the fight right now. He just gets taken down by the Ricochet, Rusty. Look at the health bars. This Sivir was behind 40 CS. Was not a condition, was not a problem, but now rocks up to the major big team fight and has just picked up a triple kill.
The Sivir doesn't even have a mythic and is now 3-1 with a 300 gold bounty. Herald confirmed, Herald summoned in mid lane for Pentanet.gg as well. And all hope for Direwolves starts to dwindle 16 minutes in. It does seem like this is a brand new beast right now with Belkan and Winter showing the Nidalee Renekton 2 times in a row. And you can never tilt Praedyth, you can never get Mark out of the game. He'll find a way to stay strong. Mentally, he'll still be there. And in his tired, just woken up state, he'll persevere through all adversity.
He's truly woken up now.
He's awake now.
Right, laning phase, he was still rubbing his eyes, getting the sleep out of his eyes, but he's now ready to play. Now, finally, has that Mythic item online. And if we saw how strong he was before, well, it only gets worse from here.
The reality is at this point, right? Like, not only did Praedyth get the kills, it means there's no distinct weak point for their whole squad at this point. You know, like catching up in items. The Sejuani is still 0-5 behind 40 CS and not with a mythic to be purchased either. So this is one of those situations where it really feels near impossible to play the game out as a comp for Direwolves. Because you've got Yuri throwing pot shots, Renekton's unkillable, Nidalee's going to assist if you go near the Renekton at all. And then you have a Nautilus to follow up on any kind of engage attempts that you have. And as a comp, Direwolves would like to move forwards to get those resets, but can they? There's 4 here, but he's unkillable.
I mean, he just hits the ultimate, clears the wave, and says, you can't do anything now. I bought enough time for Pentanet's backup squad to rock up to the fight. Belkan's going to jump in. He's flash swiped. He goes golden, baits at the culling. The tidal wave is there to try and trim a little bit of time. But Praedyth, he's on the hunt because he wants more kills. He'll find one. Belkan will snipe away the second, and then he'll get himself a double kill in the mix of it as well. We said it before. We're just going to say it again. 5 kills now. Massive Sivir.
They do this without their Zoe, right? Yuri's bottom. They're still looking for the kills.
We certainly are looking for the kill, and they will find it very, very easy. Rusty, I mean, this is a 4v5, and it was a wipe.
Yeah, meanwhile, having the time of their life bot lane, Yuri continues to push. PGG are going to break the inner turret top as well. Now 4-16 in kills, and the gold lead is just ballooned out of control. You heard it from Praedyth in the interview. They're going to play fast. They're going to play loose, win or lose. But they get the comp to play fast, and they certainly know how to hit it home with a vengeance. Stopwatch, very clutch there from Belkan. It's the reason he goes so crazy forward. Poltron on the hunt for those resets. What choice do you have? Like we said, their comp wants to play pretty forward moving. But if you're behind, it's just that much harder to do.
Certainly is that much harder to do, and it may now be, Rusty, that we're starting to see Pentanet at full force, potentially ramping into that playoff, showcasing that there is Belkan, there is Yuri, they've got a full team around them, all hitting their perfect stride when it really does matter. To be up, what, 12k gold, only 18 minutes in? Unfathomable, to say the least. Feels like the Renekton Nidalee drama, the snowball effect, has certainly outpaced what this Lucian army was built to achieve, and it's just not going to stop.
No, it will be relentless at this point as well. Belkan and Yuri moving together. 2 magic damage champions with no magic resistance on the enemy team are going to have the time of their life with their single item spikes, but They're so far ahead. Make it 2. Deathcap done second for Yuri. Lichbane for Balkan. You cannot misstep. You cannot misstep it. You're already at death's door. They're pushing you in directions and you can't misstep.
You just can't leave your base right now. Constant bombardment of skill shots coming out of this Zoe with
they
a blue
have
buff.
to. Like you're
but
saying,
Direwolves
they
have
have
to do
to.
something. They're going to try and pick at any kind of wound that they can find. They're going to lock themselves their sights on this Nautilus and take him down. A Glacial Prison goes out blind to try and see if they can find anybody lurking in the shadows, but we saw that Yuri already left by that point, and they're going to need more like that.
They may have seen Balkan basing. That might be why they choose to pull the trigger. Alternatively, they've just realized the state of this game, right? They can't just sit there and utterly lose because it'll be a slow, drawn-out affair where there's no counterplay, and PGG just have more on the map to take. So Direwolves just pull the trigger. They say, we've got to do it. They rip the Band-Aid off. They'll find the pick because Balkan's in base. That's the type of play that you can get away with, but the question is how many times before you get aced and lose the game.
It's going to get to that point where the respawn timers will still add up, but it is still very early into this game, so I don't mind the fact that Direwolves will certainly fight fire with fire, but they will need a big injection of gold. They will need to claim some of these major shutdowns, because you can see Balkan, 11,000 gold right now, nearly double that of the Ari in the mid lane.
They would need to catch PGG at this Baron pit. Blue Trinket confirms that it's being done. There's 3 people mid in a teleport from Winthra, essentially dissuades it. Baron's theirs, and now they get to set up on the map. They get to establish themselves. Divers, you can see them trying to clear the waves before the Baron buff gets to empower them. But it's really just a small pickings off the edges, a single melee minion. And now the onslaught can begin. The question for PGG is, are you going to play only 1 wave? Because they do have the ability to play super fast in 1 wave, but you would like to play 2 so that you have flank angles from the Zoe, from the Nidalee. It hurts, as you just saw.
Ran into the spear.
And so playing mid-top makes a lot more sense for them, right? Because it gives these angles for Balkan. It also lets Yuri on the Zoe play more aggressively as he hovers between them.
Well, it's time to test your might. If you're Direwolves, how do you defend this base? Out goes once again Zoran. It's looking to try and find a pick target. The tidal wave, they layer it on. Internet have been split for the meantime. Winter is inside the base, wrapping around from the top half straight into the mid lane with an ult. Active slice, dice, flash, and lock down a key target. Take down Nisari. 1 Spirit Rush charge remains, but maybe not much chance in this game. Dante doing whatever he can on 10% HP and watches his support get absolutely eviscerated inside their own foundation. There is no chance to survive, and there is no chance to live in what should be an ace if Winter can find it.
Oh, he's got a Hex Gate, though. You're going to follow with the Hex Gate. You might get charmed. Okay. Don't worry about the game ending. Let's see what happens here.
We're far too invested in this little narrative right now, as the game really is just ending at 22 minutes. Direwolves are respawning. They're trying to do whatever they can to hold this game a little bit longer. They're going to try and claim some much-needed gold through those shutdowns. Great skill shield. Seaman has managed to evade death for the meantime. Another Sleepy Trouble Bubble. Another chance for Yuri to try and run away, but Zoranis is still very squishy. Only 1 item complete. He has no magic resist. He's nearly just died to the ricochet, bouncing off these minions. Another big shutdown. Another one found by Poltron, who claims the soul. And that's about it.
That was 2,000 gold given straight into the pockets of Direwolves, so you have to take that, right? 2 shutdowns of 2 kills. Unfortunately, it is a completely bare Nexus. It is way too exposed, and it's going to be 1 potential fight away from losing. We'll see what happens in this skirmish one more time. Praetor spell shield super nicely and dodges out on the tidal wave and has to flash, but it is still a fight that they can take. And Praetor doesn't want to partake too much, it seems like. Would rather do the wolf camp.
Yeah.
Like in its entirety. And look, PGG rather still get into the mix. They're still able to find the bubbles, which means these kills will be confirmed. And Dante, no matter how fancy that footwork is, you're going to get hit by 1 of these skill shots, and it is Yuri that'll lock you down. Unfortunately, of course, Winterat didn't find the kill soon enough, so they weren't going to be able to just close the game. He was quite busy on a journey. But on that spiritual journey, he did not find his inner self. He found a very elusive Ari.
Yeah, he's confronted his demons head on. And they have
Demon
not
one.
been kind to him. They
Demon
certainly have
1-0.
not been kind to them. It's been a pure objective domination from Pensnet. The Dragons, the Heralds, the Barons. They've claimed every square inch of this map. 10 turrets to 1, Rusty. I mean, how often do we hear about that?
Dante completely out of mana, has to walk back to base to get some before this fight happens. It is go, and it is go immediately. You cannot give PGG space, or the game just ends.
They just get to set up. Another bubble goes out. A spear goes sideways. Winter are constantly teasing on the flank.
Spears, bubbles, boomerangs, they're going.
They're going again. Winter at the target. I don't know if that's who you want. He goes golden for a second. He's just far too tanky. They're going to come out of that stopwatch and say hello. Why do you even bother? The Winions are there, acting as the 6th member on the Pentanet.gg squad. They can't do anything. Direwolves are just far too weak. It's been an absolute stomp, and Pentanet will end on the biggest high note.
And just corralled into the fountain, Direwolves will be left defeated. PGG just too good on the day, right? As per usual for them, the past week and a half, maybe even 2, they've been hyper-aggressive early, win or loss. They've put it all on the line in the first 10 minutes. They find themselves the leads early, and look how clean the games go. All of week 10 for PGGs felt like 2 20-minute GGs. No real chance they ever lost.
No chance at all, and that's a very scary prospect now for all teams watching as a potential opponent going into playoffs thinking best of 5. We need to shut that down really quickly.
Yeah, it was a good performance from PGG. It was pretty close early. There was a lot of fun, a lot of action going on, and Direwolves were putting a high priority on that bot lane, really trying to shut down the Sivir. However, PGG persevered, started to win top lane, and then things just went right for them, especially in these team fights, especially from around that 15-minute mark. I guess it was that first Herald, right, when they decided to contest. I think that's this fight. And then they forced them away. This might actually be the second Herald. What time is it?
Yeah, 15.
It's time for an ace. Time for a bloody ace. That's what it is.
Yeah, I do want to focus on the first Herald as well, because I think from that point on, it really became favored towards PGG, because I told Mac, Zoe was picking up flash after flash. I believe she had 3 flashes in that team fight where I believe that Dials can't actually face PGG in a 5v5 face on, if you know what I mean, because Renekton and Nidalee, they're just so strong early game. Paired with that Nautilus, there is a lot of guaranteed CC to land onto Dials, where they don't have a lot of frontline. They have a Sejuani and that's it. Whoever gets CC'd basically dies from the Zoe poke and Nidalee spears, right?
Yeah.
But from that fight specifically, I think they just got dragged out for way too long, and Zoe and Sivir just were able to poke with the Nidalee, and it ultimately became a huge lead for PGG, where they just snowballed from then.
Just crazy, crazy things going on. Direwolves look buying that extra couple of breaths towards the end. Is it Seaman who was just running around, just getting chased by Winterer? I was looking at the player cams, hoping that there was just like a little shit-eating grin on Winterer's face for chasing him for so long. But there wasn't. He was just like, I got him, guys, just end. And they almost did. But look, Seaman kept him far away enough that they got one last chance with that respawn. But unfortunately, as you guys mentioned at the end, look, the kills, there was just too many going for PGG, too many things going for them, and too much cash in the bank. So have a look at that. Yuri in mid, bloody smurfing, isn't he?
You know what I'm really interested by? Because we did see PGG saving that counter pick for Zoe, which was a really good pick into Ahri, because you do have a lot of range on Ahri. However, Dials, they responded to the Renekton Nidalee with a Sejuani Viego, which, yes, it did okay, but I think the Viego was mainly towards that bot side until that first Herald, so Sejuani was suffering immensely, where we didn't see the only frontline for Dials get tanky enough to be the frontline, where they couldn't stand the poke from PGG.
It was a good performance from Praedyth as well, considering how rough that start was. Managed to really get into those team fights, hit some banger ricochets and just chunk damage. But still, you know, 7k, 8k less than what we saw there from Yuri, so an interesting effect. In terms of any of those item builds, was there anything super interesting, or was it all just kind of stock standard for what you'd expect?
Not that I saw.
Yeah.
I feel like it was a pretty standard game of League. I guess the big caveat for me is, like, if you're going to split the map against the Nidalee Renekton, the side you're playing for has to be able to carry. And it never really felt like the Lucian Nami got to play League of Legends against the poke and the range that existed in PGG's comp. So it was almost like they kind of did lose in just draft alone.
Well, fortunately for you guys at home, we have your favorite player for the interview. Kitty, who is it?
It's your man, the king of post-game celebrations, Winterer, Emelg. Welcome to the post-game interview. You guys had a really clean game up against Dials. So what I wanted to ask was that you guys drafted kind of similar to day one, where you guys prioritized on the Renekton, Nidalee, and Sivir once again. So is this just something that you guys have kind of fit into where it's most suited for you guys, or do you think it's just saving those really secretive picks for playoffs and you don't want to expose too much?
He's just muted his microphone. We heard you, and I think you've pulled your mic out.
Hello?
Whatever you did to your mic, we heard you, and now we can't hear you.
But now.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Hello,
Yes.
Winter. Yes, we can hear you.
He's here.
Okay. Hello. MLG. Today's matchup, we prepared like Nidalee just against like bad junglers like Voltron, so like he can just beat them 1v1, like jungle gap them easily. So it's just good to versus like bad teams.
Interesting affair. Now, look, that was a solid end to the split for you. Are you guys confident going into playoffs? Because we know every time we've spoken to Praedyth, he's just always said, "Oh, we're like a best of 5 team. We're a playoffs team. We just kind of need to get to playoffs." Now, goal number 1 achieved. Are you seeing yourselves as going the whole way from here? Now you've secured that upper bracket spot.
Yeah, upper bracket feels definitely nice. We have 2 lives. We'll 3-0 Order and then 3-0 Chief into finals. Great plan right now.
Okay, so you're skipping the Friday. Is that the plan? You're going all the way to grand finals early?
Yeah, hopefully. But then Chief and Order, they're both really good teams, so we have to prepare pretty well.
Promise
Yeah,
me this,
gotta
Winter.
respect.
You say you'll 3-0 Order, you'll 3-0 Chiefs. Can you 3-0 it all the way to the World's Championship Grand Final?
Probably impossible, but it's probably gonna be 3-2. But yeah, it's gonna be a banger game. Tune in. Yeah,
good.
give out that.
I'm enjoying the humble answer. I'm liking that you know that there's probably going to be a dropped game here or there, but it's realistic. It's what we love about you, Winter. Anyway, we'll let you go. Enjoy the win. Enjoy the end of the split, and we'll see you in playoffs.
Thank you. Shocked better than MLG, by the way.
Oh my god, he's stirring up the tea!
What were the other keywords that they wanted people to say in interviews? Because you got
Guns
one in there.
blazing.
That one?
Is one of
And there was like another word in there too.
Zinger box.
They had their own little crazy checklist.
Oh,
for
Zinger box.
that one. Yeah, beautiful. Now,
That's funny.
their MVP discussion. Was it Yuri? Was it Balkan? Was it Praedyth? Was it Winterer? Was it Rogue? We'll throw that. Was it any of them?
That is a great question.
I'm
wasn't
stuck
it? That is
between
a great
Balkan
question,
and
but maybe it was
Yuri.
Chippies.
It's
Maybe it was
Chippies?
bloody
You give it a
Maybe
Chippy.
was the
Draft cap.
G. I mean, probably. It probably is Balkan. But like a lot of the undoing of Direwolves was kind of them over diving, and like it wasn't. I mean, I probably will give it to Balkan because I think he played really well, but like there was no particular standout. I don't think. Like in Nidalee Renekton, one of them has to hit the stun, the other one gets to hit the spear for free. You both are like, that was easy,
Yeah.
and it was.
But Yuri, execution on the Zoe was pretty good. Got
Yeah.
multiple flashes in fights
what I'm
as well.
thinking.
Like he had
That's
the
what
Ari
I'm
matchup, he had free
thinking.
priority, they overdived top, so he got to walk there and get free kills. You know what I mean? Like he did his job. They all did their job really well, and that's why they won. But
It's either those 2 for me.
What do you think, Matt?
I think more people seem on the Yuri bandwagon than on the Balkan bandwagon. So Balkan can whinge on Twitter because Yuri is today's Dare MVP for the first game. Congrats, big man. Deathless as well. That's always great to see from our mid laners. 7-0 and 11. Did his job. Got 31% of the damage, which is very, very high considering he was on that Zoe. And there was that double AP duo as well. So there should have been some MR there.
Yeah, seeing a Zoe in the LCO is really, really like satisfying for the eyes, because especially if you execute it perfectly like Yuri, I'm sure that all Korean players love Zoe because she's such a high mechanical champion. And that's exactly what we got from these teamfights, because I believe that although, yes, I believe the Renekton and Nidalee set up the teamfights well, Yuri executed them extremely well where they were able to get the kills above.
Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, strap yourselves in because we got 2 teams who cannot make playoffs, but they're here for the last time. It's going to be fun. Gravitas may be able to find that first win, but Peace, they want some revenge as well. So don't go too far. Other side of the break, it's Grav and Peace.
from Bulldog second, probably.
See if we can get it, because that is a bit of CC coming out right now from the Ari. The charm goes out, the hook misses, the bubble only knocks
Yuri.
off the Renekton. Yuri on the flank, instant flash away, depth charge gets claimed, but Dante is still going to get knocked up. He's out the fight right now. He just gets taken down by the Ricochet Rusty. Look at their health bars. This Sivir was behind 40 CS. Was not a condition, was not a problem, but now rocks up to the major big team fight and has just picked up a triple kill.
Hey, look, menu pong.
Like, can I
What?
ride it?
5,025,
Yeah.
21,000 for Kitty. You already lost.
Kitty,
Oh.
how? No, but like,
Oh, she multiplied.
no, but like how, bro?
That's
course.
crazy when you're adding items, you multiply sometimes.
Yeah, it's just, you know.
You're actually out here just
chances.
content
That-
farming.
that
Let's be
order's
honest.
That's
like
all I'm leaving.
an
I figured out
Did
your
she,
strategy.
did she put an extra
You're
zero?
farming Twitch clips.